In 1925, a glass jar no bigger than your palm sat proudly on thousands of women's vanities. It was sleek, elegant, and promised something revolutionary: radiant skin that glowed from within. The product? A luxury face cream called Radier. Its secret ingredient? Pure radioactive radium. Yes, radioactive material was being rubbed into the faces of upper-class women daily, under the illusion of beauty and glamour. But this wasn't some shady black market formula. It was a bestseller. Advertised in elegant print. Endorsed by socialites. Sold in the finest department stores from New York to London. She wore rouge for the first time at age 21. Powdered her cheeks. Painted her lips. And walked into the world like she owned it. But behind every tube of lipstick in 1925 was a ticking bomb. The 1920s weren't just roaring, they were radiant. After the horrors of World War I, the world was desperate to feel alive again. Cities buzzed with jazz, skirts got shorter, and makeup became a symbol of modern rebellion. For the first time, women could walk into department stores and buy beauty in a jar: creams, compacts, and lipsticks no longer hidden in shame, but displayed proudly under glass counters trimmed with gold. In this era, a modern woman wasn't just fashionable, she was fearless. She smoked in public, drove automobiles, and wore perfume that smelled like freedom. Beauty wasn't just vanity, it was power. And in the midst of this cultural shift, the cosmetics industry exploded. Brands like Coty, Elizabeth Arden, and Helena Rubinstein turned powders and potions into billion-dollar empires. Magazines were flooded with promises: youth in a bottle, a glow that defies time, science meets beauty. And that phrase, science meets beauty, was the golden ticket. Women believed in modernity. They believed that science had conquered war, healed the wounded, and discovered new cures. So when a cream claims to use scientific elements to make your skin luminous, they bought it. They trusted it. They spread it across their cheeks like salvation. It didn't matter if you were a wealthy socialite in Paris or a working-class girl in Chicago, everyone wanted the same glow. Pale, smooth, and radiant skin was the gold standard. And if you could buy it in a glass jar for a few dollars, why wouldn't you? Radio ads, billboards, beauty salons, they all whispered the same thing: this is progress. This is the future. No one questioned the ingredients. No one read the fine print. The glow was everything. The glow was worth it. Because in 1925, the face you showed the world was your currency. And millions of women were willing to pay, even if it cost them everything. At the turn of the century, a woman named Marie Curie isolated something the world had never seen before: radium, a substance that glowed in the dark and pulsed with invisible power. It was the element of the future. Newspapers hailed her as a genius, a scientific prophet. And for good reason: radium could burn through tumors, light up clock dials, and seem to defy the laws of nature. The world watched in awe as Curie won 2 Nobel Prizes, her discovery worshipped like divine fire stolen from the gods. To the public, radiation wasn't danger. It was hope. It was a new frontier: electric, glowing, unstoppable. And almost overnight, radium became a brand. Chemists bottled it. Entrepreneurs sold it. Doctors prescribed it. You could brush it on your gums, soak it in water, even inject it into your bloodstream. It was sold as a treatment for arthritis, anemia, fatigue, and aging. One company claimed it could make men more masculine and women more youthful. Another said it energized the blood. Radithor, one of the most famous products, contained triple distilled water and actual radium isotopes. People drank it daily like a vitamin. No one questioned how a radioactive metal was now being swallowed, smeared, and sold in perfume bottles. Because in the 1920s, if a product had science behind it, no matter how dangerous, it was trusted. The world had just survived a war. X-rays could see through skin. Electricity lit up cities. Surely radium, glowing, exotic, cutting edge, was a gift, not a threat. And as radium crept from laboratories into beauty salons, one silent assumption lingered in every ad, every article, every smiling endorsement: if the scientists made it, it must be safe. But science didn't warn them. It sold to them. And the cost of that trust was about to bleed through their skin. In 1925, the Radier Company launched its star product, Radier Face Cream, a high-end cosmetic infused with trace amounts of radium chloride and thorium. It was advertised as revolutionary, rejuvenating, and scientifically advanced. The jar cost more than a week's wages for most women, but that didn't stop it from flying off the shelves. The appeal. It promised to revive tired skin, reduce wrinkles, and give your face a natural, luminous glow. And it did glow. Under the dark, it literally shimmered. For women who had been told to be invisible, this glow meant power, beauty, worth. The ads were stunning. Radiant women touching their cheeks, gazing into mirrors with blissful smiles. Let science bring your youth back, the headlines said. Let Radier awaken your skin. The cream was packaged like a treasure, frosted glass, gold embossing, wrapped in velvet-lined boxes. It was the kind of thing only the elegant, elite, or daring could afford, and they did. Socialites in New York. Models in Berlin. Aristocrats in London. Even some early film stars were rumored to use it. It wasn't just a face cream, it was a status symbol. And the science? Twisted brilliance. The Radier company hired scientists to endorse the product and doctors to lend it credibility. They printed clinical studies showing improved circulation and skin brightness. But no one questioned how, exactly, it worked. No one looked beneath the glow. The truth was buried under money, mirrors, and marketing. And that's the danger of prestige. When a product becomes desirable enough, it becomes untouchable. Because who would dare question the cream that made you beautiful? Who would say no to science, to youth, to glow? And so, women massaged it into their faces morning and night. They didn't know the glow was radiation. They didn't know the glow was rot. They didn't know, until it was too late. One woman who this affected was Elise. She lived in Strasbourg. Every night before bed, she dipped her fingers into the cream and whispered, "I deserve to be beautiful." But by the end of that year, Elise would cover every mirror in her home, and beg the doctor to take her face away. Elise wasn't a movie star or a wealthy heiress. She was a schoolteacher, quiet, reserved, with deep-set eyes and the kind of beauty she didn't think belonged to her. She saved for months to buy a jar of Radier. When it arrived, she held it like a sacred object. The cream shimmered under the light. It smelled faintly floral. She applied it every morning, every night, believing, this is the new me. And for a while, it worked. Her cheeks flushed pink. Her skin softened. Friends said she looked younger. Even her students noticed. But then the tingling started. A gentle sting across her cheeks. She thought it was just dryness, maybe the weather. Then redness. Then tiny blisters. She stopped smiling in class. The once shimmering glow became angry patches of inflamed, bubbling skin. But the cream had worked before, so she used more. More cream, more nights, more pain. Weeks passed. The blisters opened. The skin began to peel in thin, wet strips. Elise covered her face with silk scarves. She stopped going out in daylight. By spring, her jaw ached every time she spoke. By summer, her teeth were falling out. "I thought it was supposed to save me," she wrote in her journal. "But I am disappearing," and she wasn't the only one. Across Europe and America, women who used Radier and similar products began showing up at doctors' offices with identical symptoms: cracked skin, open sores, aching bones, necrosis of the jaw, a condition now known as radium jaw. One young woman in Paris had her entire lower face amputated. Another in Vienna reportedly died after radioactive particles were found in her bloodstream, concentrated in her facial tissue and bones. The most horrifying part? Many of them kept using the cream, even as their faces deteriorated. Because it was hard to believe that something so luxurious, so modern, so trusted, could be the thing killing them. They blamed themselves. Their hormones. Their skin type. The weather. Anything but the jar of poison on their nightstand. First it burned, Elise later said. Then it bled. Then, it fell off. And in the background, the Radier company kept selling. No warnings. No recalls. No refunds. Just more shimmering jars. More glowing lies. More bodies collapsing quietly behind closed doors. Everyone saw the glow, but no one saw the decay. Not in the ads. Not in the papers. Not in the eyes of the saleswomen smiling behind makeup counters. When Elise lost her cheekbone, she wasn't offered help. She was offered silence. By 1926, the warning signs were everywhere, but no one wanted to look. Women were disappearing from salons, canceling appointments, retreating from public life. Some whispered about infections, others blamed bad skin. But behind the curtains of vanity tables and doctors' offices, a much darker pattern was forming, wounds that wouldn't heal. Skin that peeled until there was bone. Gums that oozed blood. Jawbones that snapped. Still, no public statement. No product recall. No urgent investigation. The cosmetics companies knew. Internally, letters had begun circulating, product testers and lab staff noting strange reactions. Reports of inflammation. Pain. Rot. But executives dismissed them as rare allergies. After all, Radier was still selling. Still trending. Still profitable. In one internal memo, a manager wrote, "Too many women are using it without issue. It would hurt our brand to overreact." Doctors, many of whom had endorsed these products, said nothing. Some were paid to keep quiet. Others genuinely believed in the miracle of radium. Science had become faith. And faith doesn't doubt itself. Meanwhile, victims were blamed. You applied it too heavily. You didn't follow the instructions. You must be sensitive. The narrative shifted the shame onto the user. It always does. Just like Elise, thousands of women suffering in silence felt they had done something wrong. And so they kept buying. Kept applying. Kept deteriorating. First they felt the glow, a survivor would later write, then the burn, then the silence. But the silence wasn't passive, it was weaponized. Newspapers accepted advertising money from Radier and similar brands, and refused to publish critical reports. Clinics feared backlash. Governments, still recovering from war, were too fractured to enforce cosmetic regulations. The silence was a system. And in that silence, women died. Quietly. Alone. Unwarned. When the first lawsuit was filed in 1927, the courtroom wasn't just filled with lawyers, it was filled with ghosts. Elise's case, like dozens of others, was brought by a woman who had once believed in beauty as salvation. Now, she sat disfigured behind a veil, barely able to speak, her jaw held together by a steel brace. The courtroom hushed when she entered. Not out of respect, but discomfort. No one wants to look too long at the cost of their comfort. Radier and other companies came armed with lawyers, money, and science. They argued that there was no definitive proof the creams caused the damage. They blamed women's diets, their hygiene, their own biology. One defense attorney infamously said, if they knew it was dangerous, why did they keep using it? As if pain and hormone balancers into their routines, sometimes without understanding what those words actually mean. And just like in the 1920s, we whisper, if it's on the shelf, it must be safe. But history says otherwise. In the last decade alone, thousands of beauty products have quietly been recalled, many only after users reported severe reactions, burns, hormonal disruptions, hair loss, even permanent skin discoloration. Social media moves faster than regulation. TikTok can sell a product in hours. But governments can take years to prove it's harmful. That delay. That's where history repeats. Look closer, and you'll notice something chilling. Some of the same language used to sell radium in the 1920s, scientifically advanced, recommended by doctors, proven by modern laboratories, is still used today. It's just rebranded. Today's woman is told she's empowered to choose. That she's informed. But marketing is smarter now. More subtle. It doesn't scream, this will fix your flaws. It whispers, you're already beautiful, but this will unlock your best self. And what happens when that product hurts you? When it scars your skin or makes you sick? The silence returns. You're told it's your fault. You used it wrong. Your skin is too sensitive. You should have read the fine print. The radium girls were once told the same. This isn't just a history lesson. It's a warning. The beauty industry has always known that trust is more profitable than truth. And as long as women crave transformation, there will be someone willing to sell them poison in a pretty jar. So the next time you scroll past that miracle cream, that doctor-backed serum, that high-tech skincare with glowing reviews, ask yourself, what's the price of beauty this time? And more importantly, who's going to pay it? If history has taught us anything, it's that beauty has always come with a body count. From lead-laced powders of the Victorian age, to arsenic soap, to radium glowing on a woman's lips, the lie was always the same. If it makes you beautiful, it can't be bad. But now, beauty is smarter. It doesn't glow in the dark. It doesn't rot your jaw. Not right away. It hides in serums, in labels, in studies you never read, in fine print, in trust. And while the women of the 1920s were the test subjects, you might be next. So here's the truth they won't print on the box. If your glow comes at the cost of your body, if your worth is measured in milligrams and marketing, then you're not buying beauty. You're buying silence. Just like they did. Please like, share and subscribe as we continue to bring to you dark history hidden files.